now rivaling Donald Trump and how thin his skin is. He's talking about lawfare against anyone who criticizes him, etc. And there I expected a little bit more pushback, and I haven't seen much. It seems like they're now flipping to free speech sucks and we should end it.
Dude, the fact that he though, like, this is the thing that's hard to take Cenk seriously, where you wonder, was he saying the shit he was saying just because Polymarket was paying them? Because there's never been any fucking pushback, ever. They're fucking sheeples. From America's Hitler to fucking VP JD Vance. There's no pushback, okay? Zero, okay? They pretend there's pushback for like an afternoon, but he's such a fucking disingenuous, because either he is totally disingenuous and like, oh, I'm surprised there wasn't more pushback. Either he's lying or he's fucking dumb as shit. There's like no other option.
You know, they had that thing where they were like, oh, freedom of speech, oh my God, cancel culture is the worst thing in the world, and we're all about freedom and free speech absolutist. And now Donald Trump says, oh, CBS, I didn't like what they said about me or how they edited the Kamala Harris interview, I want $10 billion. I didn't like what this guy said about me, I want money, I want to sue them, I want to arrest them, etc. Elon Musk is—
Dude, they've always been like that. They have never been free speech absolutists. They've always been censorship, Bud Light, book bans. I mean, come on, man. Yo, you said something negative. You watch what you say about Elon. I'm fucking suing you. How dare you call me a rapist? Like, dude, they have always been like that. They have never been free speech absolutists. The only way they're free speech absolutists is in the fact that they absolutely want to be able to use slurs and be racist, sexist, and homophobic bitches, and then have no consequences for it.
That level of hypocrisy is just gigantic. Are you seeing the same thing I'm seeing on that?
Seeing the same thing, and this is a hallmark. If you study the 20th century authoritarians, this is an absolute classic in terms of specifically the relationship with the media, but also doing a 180 on a principle you claim to hold dear, and then your followers essentially do nothing to really criticize you. This is absolutely classic, and there's a chapter in the book about not getting sucked into these philosophical echo machine elements, where I will sometimes have people call in and they'll go, David, let's talk about first principles. What is your framework on ethics and foreign policy and morality? And this is a classic move to kind of abstract philosophy away from making difficult policy decisions. And the reason it's not worth getting sucked into those philosophical debates about their principles about free speech or government intervention is that as soon as they're inconvenient, they do a 180, as you're pointing out, on government intervention in business. They're against it until they want to force Twitter to publish what they believe about COVID, or they're doing an infomercial for Tesla on the front lawn of the White House. Or none of these principles are really sincerely.
I love Tesla. Oh, I love Tesla.
Held, and it's why I think the left would do well not to even get sucked into the black hole.
Yeah, so I don't know what you mean exactly by getting sucked into the black hole, but I don't want anybody to be naive and think that anybody's going to turn around overnight, or that they're going to dump Trump or Elon Musk and their love for them.
See, here's the thing. I don't think a lot of people are dumping shit, okay? I really don't. I think we have to galvanize our own side, because I really think most of the people that voted for Donald Trump, they're fine if he crashes the whole goddamn world, because they believe crashing the world is going to like destroy all the Democrats and take away all of their chances of ever having power again. And so they want a detonation, and they don't care if they lose everything in the process. I really think a significant portion of the right wing is at that space.
Them, etc. But I was hoping for a little bit, just not like 10, 15, 20% pushback on, hey, wait, I thought we were free speech absolutists. Now a billionaire is going to try to sue people out of existence because they hurt his feelings? And now all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, look, there's defamation laws. There's all these laws against speech. Did you know all these laws against speech? Yeah, brother, we were telling you that for years, and you told us that was nonsense and tyranny and oppression.
Dude, there's no way you believe that. Dude, all they do is lie.
Anyway, so that hypocrisy is pretty strong right now as things stand.
It's always been strong.
So now let's turn to the left. Okay, I mean, there's certainly an echo machine on the left, and there's a couple of different echo machines if you ask me, but you've got the classic one at MSNBC. Joe Biden's young and dynamic. Every Democratic leader is God's gift to humanity. They're all genius.
Dude, I don't think anybody said Joe Biden was young and dynamic. Clearly, Joe Biden was old and ragged, and sometimes he was out of it, but when you talk to him, he had a monumental grasp of the minutiae around US foreign policy and the world and his years of being in Senate. And he was clearly like competent and aware of the actual mechanisms of the United States and our position and standing in the world. Now, when you look at Donald Trump, even though he may not be as mentally declined as Joe Biden, he may not be as sundowning as Joe Biden was, although no doubt Trump is sundowning as well, and he's not as mentally decrepit from age. When you hear Trump talk and the fact that he's like threatening to take over Greenland and talking about annexing Canada, he's just ridiculous. And he's fucking brain dead, and he's fucking turning around on all of our enemies. And he doesn't understand how tariffs work. He doesn't understand how any of his actions actually work and or the effect they have. So like the fact that Cenk is still like, well, MSNBC, no, Joe Biden's young. He's 20. He's like, no, they never said that, you fucking dumbass. And like the fact is we know you're mad that Joe Biden ran again. But when Joe Biden ran again, we were kind of in a stickler fucking position. He wanted to just sink Joe Biden. But I mean, dude, he wants to sink every Democratic person. Everyone, dude. Joe Biden, whether he was touched or not, he had major legislative wins. And all of the prosperity that is hitting red states, like red states aren't filled with prosperity now, but there is some prosperity with manufacturing jobs that are going to be happening in the next 6 months. Large number of manufacturing jobs that are returning to red states. And all of that was accomplished by Joe Biden. All of it. But they don't want to look at the wins. And even with Cenk, we know that Cenk's real beef with MSNBC is, 20 years ago when they rejected him. That's what this is really about. He got rejected. And so he's still bitter about the fact that he was never prime time. Like, that's it, dude. The grifting is more profitable on the right. The grifting is definitely more profitable on the right.
Yes. So tell me about the right-wing echo machine. I know it's been around a long time. Is it this? And as you're doing that, is it the same as it's always been, or is it a little bit different now?
It's different. The story I tell basically goes back to the late 50s, and Trumpism as a sort of consequence stemmed from the opposition to the civil rights movement that started around 58. Of course, opposition to the 1964 Civil Rights Act. It went through Reagan. It went through Gingrich taking over the House in 94.
Now, I would like to point out while Pakman talks about the opposition to the civil rights movement in 1958, because 1957, let me just interrupt here real quick, because 1957, Little Rock, Arkansas, is where the Little Rock Nine, the students, went to segregated schools. What's interesting about this is there was a big collection of people trying to prevent them getting in. Now, this is important because I want you to see, we've all seen this photo. I've put it up before. We've all seen this photo. The race mixing is communism. This one was a man speaking at the state capitol. Now, what's crazy about this is when you look at this, okay, you look at these images, how does this relate to today, guys? Well, how it relates to today is you look at Jerry Jones, Arkansas. All right, remember that photograph I just fucking showed you? Look at that shit. Okay, you have these guys trying to prevent people from going into schools, protesting at the state capitol, preventing integration. There's Jerry Jones. That's the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. He's there, dude. He was there. And one thing you'll note is he wasn't there pushing through these guys to get those black students into the building. Okay, he's there, we don't know, to see what's going on, to fucking help. But anyway, these guys are still around. And what's crazy about it is you look at Jerry Jones. This is just to put this in perspective. Jerry Jones is 82 years old. So that woman, Jan Schakowsky, that we just looked at, the representative that 𝗏𝗄𝗪 is running against, Jan was around at this time. Okay, Mitch McConnell, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Nancy Pelosi, all of these people, these old timers, which there are a lot of in our government, were all around at this time. And with the exception of Bernie Sanders, none of the white ones were fighting to defend the black kids. None of them. None of them were. Okay? And that's important. That's an important detail, because when you look at Donald Trump and when you look at this right-wing second civil rights movement that I like to talk about that we're facing off against, when you look at this, it is a product of these people who were alive then that were not fighting to end segregation. They are still the people entrenched in our government. They are still entrenched in the wealthiest part of our society. They're the ones who have all the money and the power, and they're fucking running shit. They're like the old overlords of our government and our capitalist, remnant from slavery system. So the point being is that all of these guys need to be overthrown. All of the Jerry Joneses and the Trumps and the Bidens of the world, they need to go to dust. And we need to fucking move on. And we need to start populating the world and the power structure with people that would have fought to get these black boys into the building, that would have not been screaming like this fucking bitch or dead, like shit grinning, like fucking giving the dead stare like these fucking people, but would have been opening the fucking pathway for her to go to class and welcoming her to their house, welcoming her into their lives. We have people like that. There's plenty of us in the world that would do that would have been there, that would have fought this shit. I know they like to say, well, that's the way it was, but that's bullshit. Because if segregation had existed when I was 10 years old, I would have known it was fucking wrong. I could tell with the one black guy, Freddie, who lived next to us in a town of 3,000 people when I was in first grade. I knew the racism he received from the townspeople was wrong. I knew it. The names they called him, the way they treated him and his wife. Dude, it was pretty easy to fucking see. It ain't hard to know that the systems you live in are wrong, and it ain't hard to use your goddamn mouth to speak up about it. But this is why Trumpism is the last gasp. And so David Pakman, him talking about it, like running the through line from 1958, civil rights movement to now, he's right on. And I love to see it. And I'm going to give him some credit there for nailing that time period, because that's exactly what we're dealing with now. We're dealing with the old school racists, the old school people who thought segregation was okay. They thought that system of power was just fine. They thought it was good for the world. And in fact, that's why they're so against DEI, because DEI is not this. It's the opposite of this. Okay? It's not this. It's like trying to elevate her and welcome her into the fold. Okay? And so kudos to you, David Pakman. What is up, guys? Thank you so much for watching. You like the video, you want to support independent resistance media, You know what to do. Drop that sub, hit the like button, and please share it. And we do love our members, so if you want to become a member, it's another really great way to support. Thanks again for everything, guys. I'll see you next time. Let's go.